So 2 videos ago, I said this. Get ready for some university content. And now, my first year of university has ended, and lots of content has been made. But in my defense, that should tell you everything about the workload that I've had to deal with. I went through unspeakable amounts of stress. I am dreading the next semester. And at the end of last semester, I decided to get my life together by cutting bangs and dyeing my hair pink. Only to start fighting my own bangs 2 days later after washing my hair, because they were an absolute nightmare to style. And as you can see, my bangs have grown out and the pink has faded from my hair. But my memories of the past year have not faded from my mind. Therefore, I'm about to tell you about all the horrors that I went through in the past year. And by that, I mean I'm gonna review every course that I took in my first year of university and rank them on a tier list based on how much I crashed out and whether the crash out was worth it. Let's go over the tiers that we have. So the first is for the courses that I associate with little to no crash outs, and they brought my grades up as well, so why not recommend them to everyone and their mother. Next up, we have pretty chill, which is for the courses where the crash outs were kept at a minimal level, but were not necessarily grade boosters. Then we have not bad, but be warned. And the courses in this tier fall under 2 subcategories. The first is I crashed out a lot, but the crash out was worth the grade. And the second is I didn't crash out that much, but I assume a lot of people will crash out over this, so register for them at your own risk. Our next tier is which I think is self-explanatory. And the last tier is for courses that I would file a restraining order against. Now, I know some of you are year 1 students looking for free electives and car subject recommendations, so that's all I'm going to cover in this video. I actually registered for CLC 1151, but they kicked me out because I was too good. And by that, I mean I took a placement test and then they moved me to 1152. Personally, I didn't find the content to be super difficult because I already knew some Mandarin prior to registering for this course, and I already knew most of the vocabulary and the sentence structures covered, so I'm probably not the best person to comment on the difficulty of the content. The grading of the oral quizzes, however, was strict to the point where it almost felt like witchery. This one time, I said something along the lines of,
上个星期我来这里买香蕉，你也打折。
and the professor told me,
You're pronouncing 香蕉 as 虾蕉.
and I was like,
I swear I'm saying 香蕉. I don't know why it's not coming out.
but yeah, they were taking marks off based off how many pronunciation mistakes you made, and I crashed out a lot over that for my standards at the time. If you struggle with tones or just pronunciation in general, I would not recommend this class, unless you're okay with getting like something lower than an A. Now, the crash out that I went through is very evident for this course, but I'm also happy with the grade that I ended up getting. So it's going into not bad, but be warned. This is an EREW course, which means that in addition to the final term paper, you would have to submit 2 drafts of your term paper to the English Language Center. And then they're going to compare both of these drafts and they're going to give you a grade, which is worth 10% of your final grade. But if you don't mind writing, then I would definitely recommend it because it's super easy to get a good grade in. The lecturer makes it very clear what he wants to see in the reflective journal and the term paper. However, I have one complaint with this course, which I suspect apply to some car subjects that fulfill EREW as well. When I was working on draft 2, I followed one of my subject professor's instructions, which happened to be different from ELC's guidelines, and then when I submitted that draft, and I went to the consultation, I was informed that I was penalized by the ELC teacher for not following ELC's guidelines. The ELC ended up giving me a 6 out of 10, which was certainly a major crash out for me, but it was just worth 10% of my grade, so it didn't affect my overall grade that much. To be honest, I've practically recommended this course to everyone and their mother, but now that I think about it, I would say it falls somewhere in between would recommend to everyone and their mother and pretty chill. Okay, you guys don't have the context for this, but I don't think it belongs in pretty chill, so I'm gonna put it in would recommend to everyone and their mother, like, but with an asterisk. Now, this is an extremely chill course. Although attendance is part of the final grade, you only have to attend 10 lectures out of 13. And for each lecture's attendance, you have to correctly answer 2 questions related to the lecture. And they're pretty much impossible to get wrong if you are attending the lecture, because the lecturer will tell you the exact answer when she gets to the part of the lecture that's related to the question. The visual quizzes were also pretty easy, considering that we were allowed to open the slides on our laptops, and we could just control F everything and like match the pictures in the slides to the ones in the quiz. Now, because of how easy it is to earn marks in these 2 components, your final grade will most likely come down to how well your term paper follows the grading criteria. I think the only issue with this course, if we can even call it that, is that the average marks are very high. And most, if not all, car courses are graded on a curve, so it's harder to get a super high grade like A+. But if you're satisfied with an A or like an A-, this course is perfect for you, and I would recommend it to everyone and their mother. Remember how I said earlier that I wouldn't recommend human relationships and the cyber role to people who want to avoid writing so much? Because here's the thing, most CAR-M courses are either EREW or they assign long-term papers which make up a large portion of your final grade anyway, despite not being EREW. Some of which require you to write even longer essays than the EREW limit. I would recommend taking a CAR-M that also fulfills EREW. Chinese megacities in an age of globalization is another very chill course that I took during the summer. For attendance, all you have to do is show up, sign the attendance sheet, and join group discussions. Just like arts and crafts, the quiz was open book, but we weren't allowed to bring any electronic devices into the exam room, so we had to print out all the material. The grading criteria was pretty vague, and we were never told how much we got for the quiz or for attendance. But I don't know a single person who took this course and got a bad grade. So yeah, all is forgiven, and I'm willing to pretend that those issues never existed. So the second semester was basically hell on earth for me because the workload was so heavy that I couldn't take any breaks, especially during the second half of the semester. But if I could go back to the ADRA period of the second semester, I would 100% still take Intro to Econ. First of all, the workload was pretty light, so it didn't contribute that much to the work that I was drowning in. And second of all, it gave me hope that my grades weren't going to completely tank that semester. The midterm was very easy. We were given a sample test and practice problems, which gave us a very clear idea of what our midterm paper was going to look like. But then, the mean midterm score was also very high. It was around 80% if I remember correctly. And the grading was curved, so be careful out there if you plan to take it. The first 50% of the marks in this course was very easy to get. However, nothing will prepare you for the final. Literally. Because first of all, we were not given a sample test or any past papers for the final. So we didn't have a super clear idea of what we were going into. The other issue with the final exam is that it was held from 7 to 10 p.m. I can still recall those memories so vividly, like it was yesterday. 2 hours into the exam, at 9 p.m., I was starting to fall asleep. I know I sleep at midnight, but like, that's completely different, okay? Without those 2 issues, I would have recommended it to everyone and their mother. But since those 2 things severely impacted my performance in the final, and I'm very salty about it, I'm gonna demote it to pretty chill. Now, if you're still watching this, at this point, you've probably read your program's graduation requirements, and if you haven't, then why haven't you? But if you have, then you're probably asking why I took 2 CAR-N courses and not a single CAR-T. So the reason why I took 2 CAR-N courses is that I'm using one of them to fulfill my free elective requirements. And the reason why I haven't taken any CAR-D courses is because my program doesn't require it. And that is it for my review of all of my cars and free electives that I've taken so far. I do intend to make a video reviewing all of my first year pre-assigned courses later on. And there's a lot more suffering to spice things up. I'll see you in my next video, which I will hopefully not procrastinate too much on. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.